Today, we uncover the shocking truth about UK ready meals. That chicken tikka masala that sits in your fridge contains only 12% actual chicken. The rest, mechanically recovered meat paste, glued together with enzymes and bulked out with modified starches. And what if I told you that premium ready meals, even the ones promoted by celebrity chefs, contain more salt in a single serving than your entire recommended daily limit? Or that last year, a listeria outbreak from a single ready meal factory forced the recall of 141 different products across multiple supermarket chains. And here's the part that should genuinely terrify you. In June 2024, a deadly E. coli outbreak linked to meal deal sandwiches infected 288 people across the UK. Nearly half of them ended up in hospital. One person died. The contaminated lettuce that caused it had passed through multiple factories and ended up in products at Boots, Sainsbury's and Tesco before anyone realized what was happening. This isn't some rare incident. Action on Salt investigated ready meals and found that 56% of them are dangerously high in sodium. Some cottage pies contain 6 grams of salt in a single 400-gram serving. That's more than your entire daily limit. And those expensive gastropub range meals you're paying £6 for, they contain the same reformed meat scraps and modified cornstarch as the budget versions, just with fancier packaging and photography. So we've gone through the major ready meal brands currently sold in UK supermarkets, and we'll expose the 8 products you need to avoid at all costs. Then, I'll tell you the 4 options that are actually still worth buying, but first, I need you to do something crucial. If you care about what's being hidden in your food, hit that hype button right now. Every single hype helps push this video to more people who need to see it. The food industry banks on you not knowing this information. They spend millions on marketing to keep you confused about what you're actually eating. When videos like this blow up, it forces them to pay attention. It forces change. Your hype isn't just supporting this channel, it's supporting a movement to demand better food standards in this country. So hit hype and let's expose what they don't want you to know. Number 1. Rustlers microwavable burgers. These things represent everything wrong with convenience food in the UK, and they should be banned outright. Let's start with what they're calling meat. The burger patty is around 20% mechanically recovered meat, which sounds almost generous until you understand what that actually means. Mechanically recovered meat is what's left after all the actual cuts have been removed from a carcass. They blast the bones with high-pressure water and force the remaining scraps, gristle, connective tissue, and paste-like material through a sieve. What comes out is a slurry that legally qualifies as meat, but looks nothing like what you'd recognize as a burger. They reform this paste into patty shapes, add binders to hold it together, and pump it full of water to increase the weight. You're not buying a burger, you're buying factory floor waste pressed into a disc. The bread is even worse. It's made using the Corleywood process, an industrial method that uses high-speed mixing, chemical additives, and hydrogenated fats to produce bread in 90 minutes instead of the traditional 3 hours. The result is a foam-like texture that compresses down to nothing when you bite it. It has the appearance of bread, but none of the structure or nutrition. Then there's the cheese, except it's not actually cheese, it's processed cheese food, a term that exists specifically because this product doesn't meet the legal definition of cheese. It's made from cheese scraps, emulsifying salts, vegetable oils, and artificial flavoring. The sauce is modified starch mixed with artificial flavorings and enough sugar to mask the chemical taste. A single Rustlers burger contains over 3 grams of salt, more than 20 grams of fat, including saturated and trans fats, and a significant amount of added sugar, even though you're eating what's supposed to be a savory meal. The shelf life is the real tell. These things last for months at room temperature. Real food doesn't do that. The only way to achieve that kind of stability is through heavy chemical preservation. And who are they targeting with this rubbish? Young people, students, anyone with limited cooking skills or limited time. They've built an entire marketing strategy around convenience, knowing full well they're selling nutritionally bankrupt factory slop to people who deserve better. Number 2. Charlie Bighams Ready Meals. This brand has successfully conned the British public into thinking expensive equals quality, and it's one of the most profitable lies in the ready meal industry. Charlie Bighams positions itself as restaurant-quality food. The packaging shows beautiful photography. The price point is £6 to £8 per meal, double or triple what you'd pay for a standard supermarket offering. And people buy into it because they assume that premium pricing reflects premium ingredients. It doesn't. The meat content in Charlie Bighams meals hovers around 20%, which is slightly better than the absolute worst offenders, but still means you're paying luxury prices for a dish that's 80% sauce, pasta, rice, and fillers. The quality of that 20% varies wildly depending on which batch you get. Sometimes it's recognizable chicken or beef pieces, other times it's reformed scraps that have been processed and pressed to look like chunks. The sources are where they really take the shortcut. Despite claims about cream and quality stock, the ingredient lists reveal modified starches, emulsifiers, stabilizers, and preservatives you'd never find in a restaurant kitchen. The pasta and rice have been pre-cooked, frozen, stored, thawed, and reheated, which destroys the texture. Anyone who's eaten fresh pasta knows the difference. This tastes like mush. Some of their products even use a blend of real cheese and cheese substitute to cut costs while maintaining the illusion of quality. Here's the truly insulting part. The portions are tiny. Most Charlie Bighams meals are 300 to 400 grams, and for many people, that's not enough for a proper dinner. You're paying £7 for a meal that leaves you still hungry, which means you're either eating 2 of them or supplementing with something else. And the salt content, 91% of Charlie Bighams' range, is classified as high in salt. 22% of their products meet the definition of HFSS, high in fat, salt, and sugar. You're not buying restaurant-quality food, you're buying mass-produced factory meals with excellent branding, and Charlie Bighams is laughing all the way to the bank. Number 3. Sainsbury's Taste the Difference Ready Meals. The name itself is marketing genius because it implies these meals are different from the standard range, that you're getting something special for the extra money. You're not. Taste the Difference meals are produced in the same factories, using the same industrial processes, with only marginally better ingredients than Sainsbury's Basics range. The meat content sits at around 15%, which means 85% of your tikka masala or bolognese is sauce, starches, and vegetables. That 15% isn't quality meat either. The chicken is pressed trimmings, scraps from the carcass that have been mechanically separated and reformed to look like breast pieces. The beef is restructured trim, offcuts that have been tumbled with enzymes to break down the tough connective tissue, then pressed into shapes that resemble steak chunks. It's the same trick they use across the industry, just with slightly less awful sourcing than the absolute bottom tier. The sauces are built on modified starch, emulsifiers and stabilizers. The vegetables are frozen stock that's been blanched, frozen, stored for months, thawed and reheated, a process that destroys most of the vitamins and turns everything to mush. The salt content typically runs between 2.5 to 3 grams per meal, which is half your daily limit in one sitting. But here's what really sets Sainsbury's Taste the Difference apart in the worst possible way. Many of their savory ready meals contain over 10 grams of added sugar, 10 grams in a curry or a pasta dish. Sugar is cheap, and it masks poor quality ingredients by hitting your taste receptors with sweetness before you can register that the underlying food is garbage. They're also using modified atmosphere packaging, which means they flush the container with nitrogen gas to extend shelf life far beyond what would be natural. It's not preservation through quality, it's preservation through chemistry, and you're paying extra for the privilege of eating factory food that's been engineered to survive on a shelf for weeks. Number 4. Iceland Luxury Butter Chicken and Bombay Potatoes. The word luxury on this packaging is an insult to the English language. This 400-gram meal contains 5.3 grams of salt, which is 88% of your entire daily maximum in a single serving. But the salt bomb isn't even the worst part about Iceland's ready meal range. Iceland performed the worst of any major UK retailer in recent salt surveys. 84% of their ready meals are high in salt, 87% are low in fiber. This isn't a few bad products. This is systematic failure across their entire convenience food line, and the people buying Iceland ready meals are often families on tight budgets, people who are already dealing with enough without being sold sodium-loaded rubbish dressed up as a treat. The meat content in Iceland luxury meals sits around 12%. The rest is cheap frozen vegetables, modified starches, vegetable oils, and flavor enhancers. Some of their chicken products use mechanically recovered meat. Their beef is reformed trim from mixed sauces. The sauces rely heavily on E-numbers, some of which are banned in other countries but still legal here. If you cook multiple Iceland ready meals in the same kitchen, you'll notice they all have a similar chemical smell, regardless of whether it's supposed to be Italian, Indian, or Chinese. That's because they're not using real spices and fresh ingredients to create distinct flavors. They're using the same base of artificial flavorings and adjusting the ratios. The textures are uniformly terrible. The pasta dissolves into sludge. The rice is sticky and clumpy. The vegetables are watery. This is what happens when cost-cutting becomes the only priority. Iceland has built a business model around selling cheap food to people who can't afford better options, and instead of providing decent nutrition at a low price, they're providing factory slop with luxury branding. It's cynical, it's harmful, and it's exactly what's wrong with the UK food system. Number 5. Sainsbury's Ploughman's Sandwich and Meal Deal Sandwiches and Salads. In June 2024, the UK experienced one of the deadliest food contamination outbreaks in recent memory, and it came from something as ordinary as a pre-packaged sandwich. 288 people were infected with E. coli. Nearly half of them, around 49%, required hospitalization. One person died. The outbreak was traced back to contaminated lettuce that had made its way through the supply chain and ended up in meal deal sandwiches and salads sold at Boots, Sainsbury's and Tesco. The manufacturers involved included Greencore Group and Samworth Brothers, two of the biggest names in UK sandwich production. This wasn't a small batch recall. This was a supply chain failure that exposed just how fragile our convenience food system actually is. Lettuce from a contaminated farm passed through multiple processing facilities, got distributed to major retailers, and sat on shelves being sold to unsuspecting customers before the Food Standards Agency even issued a warning. By the time they did, people were already sick. Some were already in hospital. But even outside of contamination scandals, meal deal sandwiches are nutritional disasters. Take the Sainsbury's Ploughman's sandwich. A single sandwich contains 77% of your daily recommended limit for saturated fat. That's worse than eating a Big Mac. We've been conditioned to think of sandwiches as lighter, healthier options compared to fast food, but the reality is that many of them are junk food in disguise. They load them with cheap mayo, processed cheese, and fatty meats to make them taste good. And the result is a saturated fat bomb wrapped in plastic. The meal deal model is specifically designed to encourage overconsumption. You buy a sandwich, a snack, and a drink, and suddenly you've eaten an 800 to 1,000 calorie lunch with more salt and sugar than you should have in an entire day. And because it feels convenient and looks fresh, we don't question it. We should. Number 6. Jamie Oliver Ready Meals. Few things are more infuriating than a celebrity chef who built his career on campaigning for better food in schools, turning around and slapping his name on ready meals that are nutritionally abysmal. Jamie Oliver has spent years positioning himself as a champion of healthy eating. He's done TV shows about it. He's lobbied the government about it, and then he licenses his name to a ready meal range where 100% of the products are high in salt. Not some of them, all of them. Every single Jamie Oliver ready meal currently on UK supermarket shelves exceeds the threshold for high salt content. 83% of them are also high in fat or saturated fat. 100% of them are low in fiber. These aren't just bad numbers. These are worse numbers than brands that don't pretend to care about nutrition. When you buy a Jamie Oliver ready meal, you're not getting the food philosophy he preaches on TV. You're getting the same factory-produced, salt-loaded, nutritionally hollow convenience food as everything else, except you're paying extra because his face is on the box. It's textbook trust exploitation. He's built a brand around caring about what people eat, and then he's monetized that trust by selling them exactly the kind of processed food he claims to oppose. The hypocrisy is staggering. And the worst part is that it works. People see his name, they assume it must be healthier than other options, and they buy it without checking the label. If they did check, they'd see salt levels that would make them think twice. They'd see ingredient lists packed with additives and stabilizers. They'd see nutritional profiles that look identical to budget-tier supermarket-owned brands. Jamie Oliver ready meals are proof that celebrity endorsement means absolutely nothing when it comes to food quality. The only thing his name guarantees is that you'll pay more for the same rubbish. Number 7. Marks and Spencer Gastropub Ready Meals. M&S has spent decades cultivating an image of premium quality. Their advertising leans heavily on the idea that this isn't just food, it's M&S food, as if shopping there elevates you above the ordinary supermarket experience. And people believe it. They're willing to pay 5 to 7 quid for a Gastropub range ready meal because the packaging looks sophisticated and the branding implies restaurant-level quality. It's a lie. These meals are factory-made using the same industrial processes as every other supermarket-ready meal. The meat content is around 18%, which means the majority of what you're eating is filler. The pies, which are supposed to be a Gastropub specialty, use pastry made with palm oil and hydrogenated fats instead of butter. Real Gastropub pies use butter. The difference in taste and texture is immediately obvious to anyone who's eaten both. The gravies and sauces are thickened with modified starch and colored with caramel. The vegetables are frozen or canned stock that's been stored for months before being reheated and added to your meal. There's nothing fresh about it. And despite the premium branding, the meat in M&S gastropub meals often comes from the same suppliers as cheaper brands. You're not paying for better sourcing, you're paying for better packaging, better photography, and better marketing. If you put an M&S gastropub pie next to a pub pie made from scratch, the difference is stark. The pub version has chunks of steak that you can see and taste. The M&S version has reformed scraps bound together in a floury, chemical-tasting gravy. The pub version has flaky, buttery pastry. The M&S version has dense, oily pastry that sits heavy in your stomach, but M&S knows that most of their customers aren't making that comparison. They're comparing the gastropub range to other supermarket ready meals, and in that context, slightly better packaging is enough to justify the price hike. It's a brilliant business strategy and an absolute con. Number 8. Bakkavor ready meals. In terms of sheer scale and impact, Bakkavor represents one of the most serious food safety failures in recent UK history. In 2021, Bakkavor was forced to recall 141 different ready meal products after listeria contamination was discovered in their production facility. 141 products. This wasn't a single batch or a single product line, this was contamination across multiple ranges, multiple supermarkets, and multiple types of meals. Bakkavor supplies ready meals to nearly every major UK retailer. The recalled products included premium own-label lines, the kind marketed as finest or taste the difference. People were paying extra money for what they thought was higher quality food, and instead they were potentially exposing themselves to a bacteria that can cause severe illness and death in vulnerable populations. Listeria is particularly dangerous for pregnant women, older adults, and anyone with a compromised immune system. It can cause miscarriages, it can cause meningitis, it can kill, and the fact that it's spread through so many different product lines suggests this wasn't just one bad batch slipping through. This was a systematic contamination issue at the facility level. What makes this even more disturbing is how quietly it was handled. There was no massive public outcry. It didn't dominate the news cycle. Most people who bought and ate Bakkavor ready meals during that period probably never even knew they were at risk. The recall happened, the products were pulled, and life went on. But the underlying issue, that our ready meal supply chain is vulnerable to large-scale contamination from single points of failure, that issue hasn't been fixed. Bakkavor is still one of the largest ready meal manufacturers in the country. They're still supplying supermarkets, and while they've presumably improved their hygiene protocols after the recall, the structural fragility remains. One factory serves dozens of brands, one contamination event affects hundreds of thousands of meals. We're one outbreak away from this happening again. So how do you find the good stuff? The first rule is to avoid anything marketed as luxury, premium, or gastropub unless you can verify the actual ingredients and nutritional content. Branding means nothing. The second rule is to check the meat percentage if it's listed. If a chicken curry is less than 25% chicken, you're mostly eating starch and sauce. The third rule is to look at the salt content per portion. Anything over 1.5 grams is high, anything over 2 grams is a disaster. And the fourth rule is to consider whether you actually need a ready meal at all, because cooking a simple pasta, stir-fry, or batch of chili takes 20 minutes and gives you full control over what goes into your food. But if you're going to buy ready meals, here are the 4 options that are actually worth your money. Number 1. Field Doctor Ready Meals. These are designed by dietitians and cooked by Michelin-trained chefs, and more importantly, they're completely free from ultra-processed ingredients. Everything in a Field Doctor meal is something you'd recognize as real food. The meat is British sourced, the fish is MSC certified. There are no artificial additives, no modified starches, no chemical preservatives. Each meal is scored for plant diversity, so you can see exactly how many different vegetables and whole foods you're getting. The protein content is over 20 grams per serving, the macros are balanced, and the salt levels are reasonable. This is what ready meals should be. They're not cheap, but you're paying for actual quality, not just marketing. Number 2. Cook ready meals. Cook has been making ready meals by hand since 1997, and they've stuck to the principle of using carefully sourced ingredients without unnecessary preservatives. They've won multiple Great Taste Awards, which is a real indicator of quality rather than just marketing hype. The meals taste like something you'd make at home if you had the time and skill, which is exactly what a ready meal should be. They're widely available in cook shops and some supermarkets, and while they're more expensive than budget options, they're worth it for the difference in ingredient quality. Number 3. M&S Balanced For You range. Not to be confused with the gastropub range we just tore apart, the Balanced For You line is genuinely better. These meals are higher in protein, lower in refined carbs, and use better quality ingredients than M&S's standard offerings. 54% of M&S ready meals overall are not high in salt, which is significantly better than most other supermarkets. The Balanced For You range takes that even further with calorie control that doesn't sacrifice taste. If you're shopping at M&S, this is the range to focus on. Number 4. Weight Watchers and Gym Kitchen Ready Meals. Both of these brands have 0% of their meals classified as high in salt, which is almost unheard of in the ready meal industry. The Weight Watchers Red Thai Chicken Curry with rice, for example, contains just 0.42 grams of salt in a 380-gram meal. That's 7% of your daily maximum. They're achieving flavor through spices and proper seasoning rather than dumping in sodium. Gym Kitchen takes a similar approach, but focuses on macro-friendly meals with high protein and balanced nutrition under 400 calories. Both are widely available and both prove that it's entirely possible to make convenient ready meals without poisoning your customers. If this video opened your eyes to what's really in UK ready meals, do two things right now. Hit that hype button to make sure more people see this. Because the only way we force change is by spreading awareness. And leave a comment telling me what food or product you want me to investigate next. I'm going to keep making videos like this, so subscribe if you want to stay informed about what you're actually eating. The food industry counts on you not asking questions. We're going to keep asking them. Until next time, read those labels, demand better, and protect your plate.